Yeah, this camera lens is something special. Thank you to ShipStation for sponsoring today's video. So this might be a little bit of a hot take, but in my opinion, when it comes to mirrorless cameras and photography, the technology has not really advanced at all in the last 7 or 8 years. You could say it's plateaued. Think about it. If you've bought a mirrorless camera in that time frame, every camera is good at photography. And when it comes to lenses, every new lens is a very small upgrade to its predecessor. Maybe it's a little bit lighter, maybe it's a little bit smaller, maybe it's a little bit sharper, but no big changes have happened with photography technology until now. Sigma has shooken things up with this 14mm f1.4 ultra-wide lens. f1.4 on an ultra-wide. Pretty crazy. As soon as Sigma announced this, I knew I wanted to try it, and for the last month, I've been using this camera. I've tested it in a variety of different situations, and today we're going to share all those photos with you and talk about my experience. Now, it's important to note that this is technically not a quote review channel. I just love photography. I love creativity. I love making images. So in a video like this one, I will share my thoughts, but it's not going to be hyper technical. We're going to let the photos do the talking because this is a realistic test of me trying to make the best art possible with this tool. And with all that extra work, I ask you one thing: do me a solid, hit the thumbs up button on today's video and let me know your favorite photo from the video in the comments. By doing this, it helps the algorithm, helps the channel, and makes all this extra work that I put into a video like this 100% worth it. So with that said, let's go over the tests that I did with this camera. The first one was a street photography test. I just wanted to get an idea of the general quality of this glass, and because we had plenty of light coming into the camera, I was able to stop up the lens to around f4, maybe f2.8, and the image quality is exactly what you would expect from a $1,600 prime lens stopped up like this. I mean, the images are crispy, they're clean, they render color nicely, but they're not hyper realistic, they're just right. I mean, this photo of Atlanta, absolutely beautiful. I love this one. This could end up in my next book, as well as a number of the images I make in this video. Now, something else you would expect from a lens of this caliber is a little to no distortion, and that's what you got on these images. The corners are nice and clean, lines are nice and clean, which makes this a true 14mm because you don't have to correct for this distortion in post. Even though I loved the image quality on these well-lit images, I wanted to see, could you achieve this level of quality when you stop the lens down to f1.4 and have it wide open? So to test this, we went to probably the best ultra wide testing ground in Atlanta, the Marriott Marquis Hotel, and these images shot at f1.4 did not disappoint. This image of Alec walking up these steps is so insane. It's such a crazy perspective at 14mm, and the fact that I was able to keep my ISO low utilizing that 1.4 aperture just made for a beautifully stunning image. I absolutely love that one. Now, we went a little bit higher in the hotel and we tested out the perspective you could get with this ultra wide. These photos are so cool. The one of Alec with the facade I love, but this street image right here, whew, blew me away. And I say this is a street photo because that silhouette way off in the distance that those lines are leading to, that is not Alec. That's just somebody walking in the hotel. So it really sweetened this test to have an authentic street image happen somewhere where I wouldn't expect it to. The lead lines here are insane. And if you have my preset module and you want to copy the editing style on this photo, you can use the Formula 19 ramp preset, basic adjustments 5, color boost 1, colors 5, and vignette. Now, as we were doing street photography, I made a portrait of Alec, and the portrait was a little bit soft. I wasn't sure if this was user error or a problem with the lens, so we wanted to test it further. We did 2 different portrait shoots and the results looked really good. The photos of me with this colorful wall, the lighting is not as good on these images, but they still came out sharp. I love the way the colors rendered on these photos. And if you're in the center of the image and you nail focus, you can make really cool, unique looking portraits at f1.4. So if you're someone who does editorial work, back when I worked at Epitome, I would have loved to have this lens because you can do some really cool, unique stuff. But it is worth noting when you're making portraits at 14mm, you are going to get some distortion in the body of your subject. If you look at these photos, it looks like my arms are extremely long and my torso is really long and my head is very small. That is just something to expect with 14mm, and you have to compensate for it. Now, we wanted to take this portrait test a little bit farther and put the camera into an odd situation in terms of lighting, so we did an underground photo shoot utilizing external light sources, and these images look fantastic as well. They're sharp, they're clean, but we did have some issues with autofocus. Now, I'm not sure if that was the lens or if that was the camera, the lighting situation, but it is worth noting that in this low light situation, we had to remake a lot of these images to make sure they were tack sharp. It would require you kind of learning the ins and outs of the lens yourself to determine the best way to use it, but it just wasn't straight out of the box user friendly. We had to work to get these images, but I think they look great, and I think the lens handled all the weird lighting that was happening in this location very well. Now, the thing with this lens is most of the people who buy this are going to use it for some type of nature photography, landscape photography, or astro photos. So I wanted to quickly test it in some harsher conditions. I took it out in the rain and the results were okay. When you have a large front element like this lens has, keeping it clean is extremely difficult when there is moisture present. For me, I found that most of the images were smudgy when I was using it in the rain, and I would have needed to plan accordingly to keep that moisture off the lens. Now, this wasn't a massive deal in this test because the moisture kind of helped us on the tree photos because that haze added to the ambiance of the image, but when I brought out an external light, you can see how much this smudging impacts the images. These are pretty unusable. Some people might think it looks like a cool effect, but for me, it just looks like a less than ideal image with a bunch of smudging on the lens. So if you plan on using this in harsh conditions, while it did stand up to the moisture, it's something you're going to have to think about with that front element being so large. Now, speaking of astrophotography, I wanted to take this lens out to do astro photos, but because of the way the moon phases are happening and because of the weather, I just couldn't make it happen. I tried twice, both times there was too much moisture and clouds in the sky, so I settled for a pretty basic light trail photo, but this is a good test of what the long exposure capabilities on this camera are. I didn't see any flaring. It seemed like it handled the light trails very well, so I imagine if you're using this for astrophotography with that 1.4 aperture, you should have no problems whatsoever. And I still plan to get out and do some astro photos with this. I'm hoping next weekend, so if you follow me on Instagram, you'll be able to see those photos when they eventually go live. But as for my final thoughts on this lens, I'm going to share them in a second. First, I want to thank today's sponsor, ShipStation. Thank you to ShipStation for sponsoring today's video and being a huge part of my creative business. Whether you're shipping from a warehouse or your home, ShipStation makes it easy to manage orders, print labels, and compare rates, all from one easy-to-use interface, while getting discounts of up to 84% on USPS and UPS. That's the reason why I use ShipStation to ship my prints and merch, and they're going to play a key role in shipping my next book launch. ShipStation allows you to avoid long lines at the post office and takes the hassle out of shipping, especially with the holiday season coming up. Over 130,000 companies have used ShipStation, and they easily integrate into platforms like eBay and Etsy. So if you sell things online, ship packages at the holidays, or run a creative business like me and you're looking to get ahead of the holiday rush, ShipStation is something you need to have. So set your business up for holiday season success with ShipStation. Go to shipstation.com/Evan today and sign up for a free 60-day trial. That's shipstation.com/Evan to start a free 60-day trial. Thank you to ShipStation for sponsoring today's video. Now, my final thoughts on this lens is that it lives up to all the hype. This is such a unique combination of performance and image quality. I don't think there's ever been a video on this channel, or at least a 1 month span, where I was able to create this many high quality images. And the reason why I was able to create so many good photos is because of the versatility in this lens. The fact that I can make a long exposure or a street photo at a unique perspective and capture this hyper sharp, clean image, and then in the next breath go and make a portrait that is also clean but utilizes depth of field and a unique perspective of 14mm is something very different, something new, and very unique. And I think that this advancement by Sigma is going to push other companies to continue to to innovate and advance as well. And with smartphones getting so much better, it's cool to see mirrorless cameras finally advance as well. And this is going to hopefully keep photography and the interest around making pictures alive, because with a lens like this doing what it can do, people are more likely to pick up cameras and still look at photography as something that is necessary, even as mobile images continue to get better. But that's really everything I wanted to talk about today. I'm excited to keep using this in the future. Stay tuned for more videos and photos utilizing this lens here as well as on my Instagram. And remember, hit the thumbs up button on today's video. Let me know your favorite photo in the comments. And if you don't have my preset module from evanramp.com, you can check that out or pick up my free preset. That's linked in the description down below as well. You are the truth. Hope you enjoyed this one. I'll see you next time.